Eskom interim CEO Phakamani Hadebe has assured South Africans that there will be no load shedding come this Friday. Hadebe briefed the public on the state of the system. For more, we crossed our reporter Liabo Setho, who attended the Eskom briefing. Good afternoon, Liabo. Some reassurance for South Africans this coming winter.
Good afternoon, Zinga. Yes, absolutely. Some reassurance, or the kind of reassurance that South Africans watching today were looking for, to find out if there would be load shedding come the end of this week. The interim CEO, who has joined me here, has assured South Africans that there will certainly not be any load shedding. But let's speak to him to get more information about what measures they have in place to make sure that we don't remain in the dark like we did back in 2008. Mr. Hadebe, thank you very much for your time. This is the kind of reassurance that South Africans have been waiting for. However, the issue that we still have very low stockpiles does not give much confidence that we will certainly not be into load shedding. Won't you just reassure our viewers at home about the state of the system?
Yeah, we are producing about 47,000 of electricity. Currently, we have outages that are about 10,000 or so. That leaves us with about 36,000 electricity that can be used now. And out of that, we think at the higher peak, it will be about 33,000. So this leaves us about 3,000 that we can make use of. Our argument is holding all other things constant. If there are no anomalies like natural disaster and stuff of that sort, we are comfortable that what we have will be able to take South Africa through the winter season.
One of the other important announcements that you made was the issue of liquidity within Eskom. You talked about how you went through a roadshow to gauge investor confidence, and you also mentioned that there are a few investors who have indicated an interest in Eskom. Please tell us more about that and who they are, if you can share with us.
No, unfortunately, I cannot be able to tell you about that. There are two things that you have to understand in funding. The roadshow that was on was a non-deal roadshow. Is to report on the developments that have taken place. And the investors were quite happy on the corporate governance side, but also on what we are putting in as the start of a turnaround strategy. What has happened in the past 3 months is that a large number of investors have come forth to buy our bonds. And we're happy about that. We haven't reached the levels we would like to reach, but the situation is far, far from where we are coming from. A good example, let me talk about this. Just in the past 3 months, that across borrowing, we have raised 43 billion. Last year, during the financial crisis of Eskom struggled to raise, after July, an amount of $1 billion. That will show you where we are. The funding for this year is 72 billion. And out of that 72 billion, we have since raised about 15 billion. This is the start of the financial year. The financial year goes up until the end of March next year. We are confident that come end of the financial year, we will have raised the right amount.
Let's talk about the board that has joined earlier this year. They basically promising to stabilize corporate governance. What has been at the foremost of their to-do diary? What have they done?
Yeah, the first thing was corporate governance, was to go in and clean the place and identify those that have done the wrong and take the right decisions. And accordingly, out of the executive and senior management, 8 people are already out. Once they've done that, then they started to negotiate in the financial markets with a view to raising the necessary funding. And within a space of 2 weeks, an amount of 20 billion was raised, which will have created problems because Eskom will not have been able to meet its obligations. That's a great achievement. What we are currently doing with the board now is then to put that long-term strategy that will ensure that the institution is sustainable for another 95 years.
And just finally, have you been able to convince the very same board to keep you on? Would you like to stay on? They haven't indicated who the next CEO would be. Are you interested in the job?
Okay, thank you so much.
Okay. Mr. Hadebe, well, he couldn't confirm that one. Of course, we do know that Eskom is still looking for a permanent CEO. When the new board came in, one of the foremost of the most important thing that they had to do was to stabilize the executive at the top, making sure that there is a stable permanent CEO and a permanent CFO. What I also wanted to do is to see if I can get Mr. Chris Yelland, who's the energy analyst, to just get his analysis of the state of the system, and if he was able to get the buy-in from what Mr. Hadebe said and what Eskom has said. He's one of the analysts actually that did make us aware of the issue of the load shedding and also the coal depletion. So let me speak to Mr. Chris Yelland. If you could just come in short, Mr. Yelland. Thank you very much. Sorry I had to drag you off from the late leader there. But let me get your view, the analysis. Are you satisfied with what Eskom has told us today about the fact that there certainly would not be any load shedding happening at the end of this week?
I am satisfied. Look, one can never be 100% certain about these things, but I think the probability of load shedding this week and this winter is very low. And there's a good reason for that. The reason simply is that Eskom will do whatever they have to do, including paying exceptional high prices in order to ensure that coal gets delivered to the power stations. There are mountains of coal in South Africa. Mountains. There's mountains of coal at Medupi. There's mountains of coal in Mpumalanga. And it's all about getting the right quality of coal, the right quantity of coal, to the right place at the right time. It's a logistical issue and it's a cost issue. If you pay the price, you can easily truck coal from Medupi to power stations in need in Mpumalanga. The question is, will it come at a big price? Yes, it will. Should Eskom pay that high price? Yes, they should. Because the cost of not having electricity, the cost of unserved energy is something like 75 Rand a kilowatt hour, whereas the price of electricity is 1.50 Rand a kilowatt hour. So the cost of not having electricity, the cost to the economy is many, many times higher than whatever Eskom will have to pay for coal.
Sorry about that. Let's talk about the current road shows, the hearings that are countrywide that NERSA is holding. I don't know if you've been keeping track of that, but it has gotten a lot of people, even our viewers at home, very worried that they may have to pay even more for electricity. And of course, given the current situation that consumers are under the high prices, the VAT, we just gotten the high petrol prices not so long ago. We can ill afford that. What do you make of these hearings?
Eskom is applying to the regulator to claw back or recover something like 66 billion rands of expenditure that they didn't expect and of reduced sales volumes. The impact of this is huge. It is an enormous sum of money, but I don't think we should assume that NERSA is going to give Eskom what they are asking for. So they've applied for 66 billion Rand. We're not sure how much NERSA will give them, but in terms of the price increase that Eskom applied for on the 1st of April, they applied for something like a 20% increase and they were given a 5% increase. So more of the same could be happening. They could trim that 66 billion application very significantly, half or even less than half. But we don't know what the final determination by NERSA will be, but we should hear by June, July this year. But further than that, it's unlikely that the NERSA will allow Eskom to recover this money in 1 year. They will likely spread it over 3 years because, in fact, the application covers a 3-year period. And again, if they spread the reduced application over 3 years, it starts becoming more manageable. But nevertheless, it will have an impact on the price of electricity, and in the end, the customers will have to pay.
unfortunate. Mr. Chris Yelland, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
Well, that was Chris Yelland. He is with EE Publishers and he's an energy analyst. I just got his thoughts on what he made of the state of the system. He says he's convinced, and also about the NERSA hearings that are currently underway countrywide. And he says that they may not, Eskom may not necessarily get the entire 66 billion rand that they're hoping for from NERSA. But of course, that remains to be seen when NERSA does eventually makes its final decision with regards to that. And with that, it's enough from us here at Megawatt Park, and it's back to you, Nzinga, in the studio.
Thanks for that update, Liabo Setho, coming to us live there from Megawatt Park. Now, unions representing striking bus drivers are set to meet with employer associations in Johannesburg again today with the hope of ending the nationwide strike, now in its third week. The parties are half a percentage point apart in negotiations on a pay increase for the drivers.